Well, it's a symbolic victory for Iran. As you yourself pointed out, it's not going to have any practical impact. I guess my hope is that, frankly, it will be overtaken by events, that by the time this case moves forward, the United States and Iran will both have gone back into compliance with the 2015 nuclear deal, which means that the United States will be lifting a lot of those sanctions that Iran is complaining about.
So that being said, what would it take for Iran and U.S. to get back to a place of discussions and removing sanctions in exchange for nuclear compliance, getting back to that deal?
Well, we've already seen some moves, some indications. There is an envoy who has been appointed, Rob Malley, a very distinguished diplomat, former Obama and Clinton administration official, who is the new envoy for Iran. We've seen some comments by the Iranian Foreign Minister Javad Zarif suggesting that the European Union's High Representative for Foreign and Security Policy, Mr. Borrell, could perhaps be helpful. So I think it's a matter of choreographing a return to compliance on both sides, setting up steps that each side can follow. We've also seen some goodwill gestures. The Iranians are releasing some South Korean crewmen from a tanker that the Iranians seized. The South Koreans say that they will release frozen funds that Iran would like to see, and I imagine the United States is perhaps given a green light to this as well. I wouldn't be surprised if we see some sanctions waivers. I would hope from the Iranian side we might see the release of some political prisoners and dual nationals, like Siamak Namazi, who's been held for more than 5 years. So I think the two sides are inching back toward direct conversations.
We are 2 weeks into the Biden administration, and the topic of Iran has come up many times since Joe Biden took the oath of office. What is your timeline, or what will you be looking for in terms of a timeline, getting back to some of what you were talking about?
Well, I'd like to see both sides back in compliance, certainly before Iran's presidential elections in June. Hopefully, well before that, at least an agreement on what the necessary steps would be for Iran to get rid of excess enriched uranium, to remove some advanced centrifuges that it has installed, to stop enriching at an underground facility called Fordo, and of course for the United States to allow Iran to freely export oil and have access to its oil revenues, and to use its central bank for all sorts of key transactions, including obtaining COVID vaccines, something that Iran is trying to do now.
And you mentioned Europe, of course, Europe's role in all of this and some of the other players. What is your sense from them, from that side, as far as getting everyone back together?
Well, I think everybody's waiting for the Biden administration to get, ready and staffed up, and will certainly consult closely. I know that the new Secretary of State, Tony Blinken, has already spoken to a number of European counterparts, including the so-called E3, the foreign ministers of Britain, France, and Germany. And I assume he'll be consulting as well with officials from China and from Russia. So the group that negotiated the 2015 nuclear deal will be called upon to help ease both Iran and the United States back into compliance.
And very quickly, this might be a more complicated answer, but do you think it'll be as easy to get back to that point, back to 2015, since we're seeing some of the same players from the former Obama administration?
Yeah, it shouldn't be that hard. I mean, it took 12 years to get the original Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, so it's certainly not going to take that long. And the key is to do it while we have Zarif and Rouhani and all of these folks on the Iranian side who negotiated the original deal. And then on the American side, the return of many people, Wendy Sherman, Tony Blinken, Rob Malley, Jake Sullivan, who were involved in the original negotiations. This should facilitate a quick return to compliance.